Hello one and all, I'm back once again to a video on Soma Spider, so what? This time covering the cut content of Volume 3 light novel. Though I do have to say, moving forward, there will be a bit of a spoiler warning, because while this volume ends with her escaping the Labyrinth, there are a few chapters that foreshadow things that were not in the anime at all. Foreshadowing plot elements and twists that I guess won't be revealed until Season 2 of the anime, if we ever actually get a Season 2 of the anime. So interesting, very, very interesting. Though for some of those chapters, I really am just giving my best guess of exactly what it is they're trying to say, because they are very, very vague, often not explaining who exactly is speaking in the chapter, who's there, what's going on, or really anything. So yeah, very, very concerning and confusing, but let's get into this. Now we start off with Kumoko really, truly wanting to escape the Great Elbow Labyrinth because she wants to go out into the world and eat delicious food. Because the fireworm she killed at the end of last volume is utterly tasteless. She describes it as being like flavorless white fish that makes her really crave all the seasonings she had back in Japan, which she has, had to go without this whole time she's been eating monster meat. Of course, when she actually gets in the outside world, there's going to be a whole bunch of problems. For one thing, she doesn't actually know the language of this world, and even if she did, she is really, truly bad at communicating with people. Hilariously bad at it. So yeah, that'd be an issue. Though the much bigger issue is that she is a spider, so she can't actually talk at all. I mean, she can get the telepathy skill, but that seems like a waste of skill points, especially when she can't actually speak the language of this world. So instead she decides to focus on evolving into an arachne, a half girl, half spider, who might be able to communicate with people, though that is a pretty big long shot. But then as she continues making her way through the middle stratum, she starts to get a little bit hungry, because as a result of her Fearbringer title and her skill intimidation, all the monsters run away from her as soon as they see her, so she's not had a good meal in a very, very long time, and it's starting to become an issue. Because if her SP reaches 0, she dies. She will starve to death. I mean, thanks to her satiation skill, she has a bunch of SP stored up, but it's still going to be an issue, eventually. The much bigger issue is that she finds a giant pit connecting the upper stratum to the middle stratum to the lower stratum. And she feels fear. She feels overwhelming fear because she sees Mother walking down it, going from the upper stratum back down to the lower stratum. So yeah, that's terrifying for her. That is so overwhelmingly terrifying for her. And just to make things even worse, a fire dragon then shows up with an army of monsters at its command, all of whom are really angry about this Queen Pterodactyl going through his territory, so they attack her. And Mother's response is to do a breath attack that literally causes an earthquake that completely wipes out the fire dragon's army and half kills it. So yeah, this is definitely one of the bigger reasons why I want to do these videos. The reason why the fire dragon was so injured in the scene when Kumoko first came across it was because of Mother. Mother attacked it first, and as a result, the fire dragon is just really ticked off when Kumoko shows up. Oh, I love it. I freaking love it. And Kumoko is just so overwhelmingly terrified of Mother and the fire dragon that her fear resistance goes up to 8, and her stealth goes up to 9. Oh, I love it, though weirdly enough, she feels a strange sense of irritation towards the fire dragon, towards this giant monster that's trying to kill her, and she can't really understand it. Why am I feeling irritated here? Should I be afraid of this thing? And that's gonna be very relevant later. But for now, the much bigger concern is that she actually needs to fight this freaking fire dragon, who has higher stats, more and better skills, a type advantage, since she's weak to fire, and has the skill Status Condition Resistance, meaning her poison and paralysis agents won't actually really work on him all that well. Oh, and he has Imperial Scales, which basically negates magic. So yeah, this is bad. This is really bad for her. I mean, he is half dead because of Mother's attack, but at the same time, this will not be an easy fight. And, she has to get serious. She activates all her evil eyes, magic warfare, mental warfare, and worm power. And the fire dragon is actually recognizing her as a threat and uses the level 8 fireworm skill Flame Wrap to cover himself in flames just to make sure that Kumoko can't get close to him. And one of my favorite details of this fight is that when the fire dragon uses his Inferno Breath skill, Kumoko douses herself in weak poison so she doesn't burn quite so much. And she still takes some damage from the fire as well as the poison, but it works. Oh, I love you, Kumoko, I love you. Though then she apparently dies. Oh no! But as it turns out, that was a deception! And it was actually a hallucination caused by a heretic magic level 6 spell, Phantasm, which allows her to drop a huge amount of deadly spider poison on top of the dragon, and then follow that up with a combo attack of both their sides, one using raw attack and the other using deadly spider poison, with the raw attack shredding its scales so the deadly spider poison can reach deep inside its body. And there is a slight divergence from the anime here, as in the anime, Magic Brain number 2 appeared during the fight, whereas in the light novel, it appeared slightly before the fight, and actually spent the entire fight preparing for the next spell, the big ultimate spell, Abyss Magic level 1, Hellgate. Which seriously, this is level 1 Abyss Magic, and yet Kumoko describes it as if the darkness of hell itself is seeping into the world from below. So yeah, it's terrifying, It actually lowers the ground all around her by a good 15 feet, and apparently sucks it into a hole in the middle, which goes down so deep that it's even beyond the range of detection. So yeah, I'm actually terrified of Abyss Magic. I am truly terrified of Abyss Magic. Though even this is not enough to fully finish off the Fire Dragon, and Kumoko and him both get ready for the big final ultimate attack, and they charge at one another, but Kumoko is just a bit smarter, as she's able to create thread imbued with fire resistance, and this slowed the dragon down enough for Kumoko to deliver the final blow. Huzzah! And this boosted her level from 15 up to 19, and this resulted in her spatial maneuvering skill becoming level 10, and evolving into dimensional maneuvering, which allows her to freely move through all space, and creates footholds in the air that she can double jump on. Though they are rather fragile right now, and she says once it levels up, she'll be able to, fully run on these. And she gains the title Dragon Slayer, and the effect being causes extra damage against dragons. This also comes with the skill Lifeblood and Dragon Power. Lifeblood is basically the Skanda version for HP, gives it a nice big boost, especially when she levels up. And Dragon Power allows her to temporarily gain the power of a dragon. It consumes MP and SP to boost all her stats, and gives her an effect similar to Imperial Scales, which disperses magic aimed at her, and gives her a breath attack of the Dark Attribute. Oh, that's a cool skill. That is a truly cool skill. Meanwhile, Black is very concerned that a dragon was just destroyed and wonders if it was his doing, but decides that can't be the case because they have an unspoken truce, so he uses his administrator's authority to investigate and finds that the person who killed a dragon is a ruler who has 3 ruler class skills, Wisdom, Perseverance, and Pride, though he's never actually heard of the Pride skill before, so he decides to go investigate. And while he's on his way, Kumoko uses her new skill points to buy the skill Heavy Evil Eye, which increases gravity on the target. And her strategy for this is basically to use this in combination with her Paralyzing Evil Eye and her Cursed Evil Eye to stop an enemy in its tracks as she slowly sucks life out of him. Though she also just wants this for Dragon Ball training. Seriously, she puts the skill on herself permanently so that she can constantly be working under increased gravity to make herself grow stronger. And so that in the middle of battle she can say, that's it, I must release my restraint, I must unleash my full power. Oh, she is such an anime nerd. She is such a freaking anime nerd, and I love it. But anyway, then Black shows up, and yeah, I know that's not actually his real name, but for the life of me, I can't actually pronounce his real name, so I'm just gonna call him Black. That's what Balto calls him, so that's good enough for me. And weirdly enough, Kumoko feels a strange sense of kinship and irritation when she looks at Black. Which, interesting, very interesting. And then the smartphone shows up, Administrator D starts talking, and her voice is described as being flat and emotionless, which makes sense, as she describes herself as being the world's most evil god. And after this whole encounter, Kumoko is very stressed out, so she starts eating a whole bunch, and for some reason, this boosts her taboo skill up to 9. I'm not sure why stress eating boosts taboo, but it works for her, Anyway, so then she decides to start leveling up so she can fight back whenever she has to fight against whoever she has to fight against. I mean, the administrators actually control the skills, so, she can't use them to fight back, but still she wants to get as powerful as she can to make sure that no one else can hold her down, no one else can stop her. Though she is a bit limited in what she can train right now because, she can't find any food due to her Fearbringer title scaring off all the monsters that she would normally eat. So she can't train anything that drains her SP and instead focuses on training skills that require MP instead, and there are some pretty good results. Her Shadow Magic reaches level 10 and evolves into Dark Magic. Her Poison Synthesis reaches level 10, and as a result she gains the skill Medicine Synthesis, which is interesting, definitely interesting, but also useful, because now moving forward, whenever she gets set on fire, she can douse herself in healing potions instead of weak poison. Huzzah! Also, her Poison Magic reaches level 10, which gains her the skill Healing Magic. Again, A weird evolution, but it works for her. Her heretic magic reaches level 10, which boosts her taboo skill, but thankfully not up to level 10 quite yet. Her cursed evil eye reaches level 10, evolves into jinxed evil eye, which still weakens enemies, but now adds their HP, MP, and SP to her own, which, super important now that she's so low on SP and struggling so much to actually find monsters to eat. Her paralyzing evil eye reaches level 10 and evolves into inert evil eye, which apparently leaves enemies frozen in time rather than just being paralyzed, so cool. And her telescopic sight reaches level 10 and evolves into clairvoyance, which is basically the same skill, but allows her to see things further away and has an X-ray effect. So she can see through walls. As a result, she can find her way outside the middle stratum and finally reaches the upper stratum. Yay! But then we flash over to Knights of the Renxandt Empire, who have been sent into the Great Elder Labyrinth to investigate increased monster activity, because this increased monster activity is making it very difficult to travel between the continents, and this is resulting in the Kingdom of Oats losing a whole bunch of money, the money they normally make off of labyrinth tolls, intercontinental trade, and monster materials. And the Renxandt Empire is really motivated to fix this problem as quickly as possible, because they receive a share of the profit from Oats Kingdom in exchange for protecting them, which, is a pretty good deal for both sides. And 8 days in, things are going surprisingly well, and the guide, I'm pretty sure it's Goyf, the same person who guided Julius and his party, is rather surprised by this, as the knights are all nobles, but as the captain explains, these are all second or third sons of nobles who weren't able to inherit their father's titles, and now want to raise their standing through the military to obtain a quality of life similar to what they experienced in their childhood when they were raised as nobles. Though the knights are a bit disrespectful to Goyf at first, but they quickly see how important he is when they realize how overwhelmingly massive this labyrinth really is. And because of that, and because the captain is quite capable and listens to everything Goyf says, even 8 days in, there have been no deaths and nobody got lost. Huzzah! Though like the report said, there are a whole bunch of monsters in places where there really shouldn't be. And then 5 days later, things have gotten very strange, as there are now no monsters at all. 2 days later, same thing, still no monsters. And the only place they really have left to look is this large passage, a place where, you can normally find the biggest, the baddest monsters in the upper stratum. But as they explore, there's still nothing. It's quiet, it's eerie. And then they find a spider web with a half-eaten earthworm in it. And this just utterly terrifies them, because a spider that could eat an earthworm would have to be at least a greater pterodactyl, a B or possibly A-ranked monster, a force that could kill an entire platoon of soldiers, and if it's S-rank, oh no, they'll die. They will absolutely die. And then, just as they're all starting to panic, a small black spider shows up, with front legs shaped like size, and they feel an overwhelming sense of fear from it, and they all run. Every last one of them runs screaming for their mothers, and they go as far as their legs can carry them before they start panting and realize that didn't chase after them. So yeah, now they are aware of the nightmare of the labyrinth. Oh, also, weirdly enough, Kumoko described either the guide Goyf or the captain of the knights as being a stoic, good-looking guy, and doesn't want to kill him because there should be more guys looking like him in the world, which... so weird, just so weird. But anyway, now she's back in the upper stratum, and she's just eating constantly, which raises her satiation level 3, and her divinity expansion to level 5, which... yeah, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. Divinity expansion seems to be how much the soul can expand, so I'm not sure how eating improves that. Very strange. Anyway, now for the first time since basically she arrived in the lower stratum, she's able to make a home, a place where she feels truly safe. The only problem is, she still has the Fearbringer title, she still has the Intimidation skill, and all the monsters just run screaming from her. That's the reason why there were so many monsters in strange areas, why the knights were sent in to investigate, because they were all running away from her. And she has to travel several days just to find food. Though thankfully her spatial magic reached level 9, which allows her to use the skill Long Distance Teleportation, letting her teleport back to her home base to snack on the earthworm she managed to kill whenever she gets hungry. Huzzah! And this is, what she was doing when she ran into the knights. And it's definitely worth noting that she doesn't hurt a single one of these knights. She doesn't use any of her evil eyes, doesn't attack them, doesn't do anything really bad to them. And they just run away because they're so terrified of her, and she doesn't chase after them. She decides to let them go because they didn't actually do anything to harm her. Yay! And then she comes across a snake fighting a group of humans, and decides it'd be too much of a pain to let them die, so she goes in and kills it with a single blow of her scythe, getting her up to level 20. Huzzah! But she doesn't stop there, as she realizes that 2 of the party are about to die of poison, and the healer is too weak and slow to actually save them, so she saves them. She uses healing magic to save the 2 who are about to die. Oh god, these adventurers must have been confused. These adventurers must have been so utterly confused. Not only were they saved by a giant spider, but then it healed their wounds, stole their fruit, and teleported away. That's the other thing. Kumoko stole their fruit after saving them. I mean, I guess you could say she took it as payment for saving them. It's a dried crichter fruit, the first fruit she's had since she was reborn in this world, and she's actually more excited to eat the fruit than she is to evolve again. Which I love, I absolutely love it. But anyway, evolution, there are 3 choices. First off, there is a greater terror attack, which, no. For one thing, it's a large type of spider. In order to evolve into Arachne, she must be a small or medium-sized spider of level 50, so yeah, that's thrown out. Secondly, there's the orthocognate, which I am definitely pronouncing incorrectly, and the one I really thought she'd pick basically requires a certain proficiency in magic, and is known for having high intelligence and is able to set traps. But she decides against it because, she's already really smart for a monster, and she's been setting traps for months. Also, it's the end of its evolutionary line, so yeah, not a great pick. And then finally, there's the Edisane, which again, I'm pronouncing incorrectly, and is an evolution of her current form, the Zoa-El, which I'm also pronouncing incorrectly, and is feared as an omen of death, with incredibly high combat and stealth capabilities. And as soon as she evolves into it, she gets the skill Annihilating Evil Eye, which is a rot-based attack that, blows up her own eye in order to harm the enemy, which, does so much damage, but again, it's not really worth it when it blinds one of her eyes and just causes so much damage to herself as well. Though very important note that the Edisane doesn't naturally come with rot resistance, and she only got it because of the Foul Feeder title and the fact that she tried to eat that nasty snail a while back. So if she just evolved into Edisane without the rot resistance skill and she tried using Annihilating Evil Eye, she would have died. She would have absolutely died. But anyway, the important thing right now is that this causes her taboo skill to reach level 10, and it begins to install info directly into her mind. Weirdly enough, the anime actually showed a whole lot more here. In fact, I saw a bunch of light novel readers say they were actually spoiled because of this episode of the anime. So weird. Really weird. All that really happens in a light novel is she passes out, wakes up, and says basically the world's on the brink of collapse. The skill and status system exists to save the world, and she could save the world herself if she massacred a bunch of humans and monsters, but that Black wouldn't allow it. So, interesting? I mean, the best guess I can make from all this is that the population is too large and they need to lower it, and therefore they gave everyone stats and skills and magic as a way of encouraging murder. I mean, if God appeared on Earth tomorrow and said, for every person you kill, your strength will increase by 25%, I'm fairly certain we lose at least half the world's population within a year. And not just because people are greedy and selfish and want power, but also because people need to defend themselves from others who are greedy and selfish and want power. I mean, let's say my neighbor went out and killed 20 people, he will have become so strong that there is nothing I can do to fight against him unless I went out and killed 20 people as well. And we actually see this in this world. Humans need to defend themselves from monsters and the demons they're constantly at war with, so they need to keep killing other demons, other monsters, sometimes even other humans, to increase their level, increase their stats, and make themselves strong enough to protect themselves from others who are trying to kill them to increase their stats to protect themselves. So yeah, a very good way of keeping the population under control. Huzzah! And Kumoko is just very angry at Mr. D for putting her in a world that's about to die. In fact, she's so angry she gains the skill Wrath level 1, which provides a huge boost to her strength, but triggers madness. And while she has heresy nullification, so she doesn't really feel the madness, it's still a rather unpleasant sensation, and she isn't really a strength-based character at all, so she decides not to use the skill really at all. And then she decides to go Lower Stratum to level up and start fighting back, which I just find absolutely hilarious. I mean, she spent the last 2.5 volumes trying to escape the Lower Stratum, trying to get back to the Upper Stratum where she'd be safe, only to go back there immediately to try and level up and try to get stronger. Oh, it's so perfect. It's so perfect. And then a few days later, as she's chilling in her nest in the Upper Stratum, she's attacked by an Arch Terror-Attack, which is as strong as an Earth Dragon, 3 Greater Terror-Attacks, each of which is as strong as an Earthworm, and an army of smaller and lesser Terror-Attacks. And you might remember this scene from the anime, but in light novel it happens much sooner, before she escapes Labyrinth, before battle against Earth Dragon Araba. And weirdly enough, in light novel, it's actually much more justified. Mother is very justified in attempting to murder Kumoko because Kumoko attacked first. You remember when I mentioned that Kumoko felt irritated when she was fighting the fire dragon? As it turns out, that was because those were Mother's thoughts. Mother's feelings of irritation towards the fire dragon were being transferred to Kumoko because of Mother's kin control skill, and while Kumoko's heresy nullification prevented Mother from actually being able to control her, it still really ticked her off, so she decided to attack Mother with her parallel minds, and so Mother just sent the army to attack Kumoko literally out of self-defense, so Yeah, I actually kind of feel bad for Mother right now. Thankfully for our spider protagonist, though, Kumoko saw this coming and laid a trap which captured the Arch-Pterodactyl and allowed her to teleport all the way back to the middle stratum, where it very quickly burned to death. Huzzah! And then she repeated that process with the greater pterodactyls. And as for the rest of the army, they kind of just died on their own. Like, Kumoko wasn't actually aiming for them, but the spells she used were so powerful, the shock wave that spread out from them literally killed all the other spiders. So, yeah, that's sad. That's really, really sad, especially because that's how strong Kumoko was, way back when she was first born in this world. And then she decides to go exterminate all the bees, because they'll get in the way of her fight with Earth Dragon Araba. And I just love that the bees keep stinging her again and again and again. 3 times she gets stung by these freaking bees because her danger perception just isn't picking them up. And that's actually really, really cool. I mean, when she first landed in the lower stratum, a single shot from this bee put her down to 5 hit points and nearly killed her and had her living in fear for weeks on end. But now she is so strong that even 3 of these bees stinging her at once is enough to cause any actual damage to her. Oh, I love you, Kumoko. I freaking love you. But then we flash over to the Renxandt Empire, who've sent their best mage, their best summoner, and a whole bunch of their best knights to deal with the spider monster, with the summoner being ordered to either tame or destroy the beast. Yeah, I'm sorry, buddy, that's not gonna go well for you. That's not gonna go well for you. The summoner is definitely an interesting character. I mean, his name isn't actually given in the light novel, which I find interesting, but they go out of his way to mention that his child had just been born right around the same time that Hugo was born, which for one thing means that Kumoko has probably been in this world for about 9 months, maybe less than that. But it also seems to imply that his own child is a reincarnator, and if so, who? My guess goes to the ninja, because he's one of the few reincarnators who is important, who wasn't just sent right to the elf village. But though I guess that could also be an interesting story. The summoner's angry at himself for not being there when his wife was killed by the elves and his child was abducted and taken to the elf village, and now he wants revenge, which might result in him working with Hugo down the road. Maybe. I could maybe see that happening. But anyway, right now he's just really concerned about the rumors that the spider monster apparently helped a group of adventurers, because that would mean it had intelligence, and is therefore a legendary class monster, which, yeah, there's absolutely nothing he can do about that. There's absolutely no way he could destroy a monster like that. Though he is kind of hopeful, maybe this monster is nice to people and therefore will be easier to tame. No. Not so much, not so much. Though thankfully he is being accompanied by Master Renxandt, humanity's strongest mage. Though Master Renxandt comes off as wild and selfish and just really, really arrogant. And it's definitely interesting, despite the fact that he's considered humanity's strongest mage, his appraisal is only at level 8. I mean, seriously, he is, almost an old man at this point, and Kumoko's been alive in this world for only 9 months, and she's already managed to get it to level 10, so curious. I mean, if this is really showing the difference between humans and monsters, how much more quickly monsters can level up their skills if they really, put in the effort. And then after a whole bunch of searching, they find absolutely nothing, until the guide recommends they check this passageway that leads down to the middle stratum, but they didn't consider it before because, the middle stratum is really, really hot, and spiders are really, really weak to fire, so it seemed like an odd choice. And unfortunately, one of the knights gets stuck in the webbing, which can't be cut, so they have to burn it. And while it has a bit of flame resistance installed in it, thanks to utility thread, once it starts burning, it burns very, very quickly, and Kumoko's entire nest is destroyed in seconds, which they realize, yeah, that's probably gonna seriously tick her off. But they still keep moving forward until they come across a bunch of corpses of an Arch-Pterodactyl that has been partially eaten, at which point they realize, oh no, this monster is way, way too strong for us to take down, and they go to flee, but at that exact moment Kumoko teleports in, and yeah, they realize they done messed up, with someone describing her as a monarch ruling over everything around it. And everybody's just shaking, totally terrified of the spider monster, except for Renxandt, who is shaking in awe at its power, at the number of skills that is active at once, and the fact that it has a skill, Height of Occultism, which the summoner has never heard of before, but apparently it's some sort of mythical, rare skill that's spoken about in legend, and Renxandt has always wanted but has never been able to obtain it. And the summoner had also never heard of abyss magic, which I find interesting, though it does make sense. I mean, seriously, even the level 1 abyss magic skill required 2 brains to activate. I can't imagine there are a lot of people in this world at all that are capable of performing that type of magic, so yeah, it's obviously something a bit more secret. And then things just get even more terrifying as they realize a spider is appraising them. Yeah, monsters don't use appraisal, ever, so they are dealing with a true threat here. And what's more, their own appraisal of Kumoko ends up getting blocked, at which point Master Renxandt screams out, "Show me more! I want to see more of your skills!" So yeah, he's absolutely completely lost his freaking mind here. Poor Master Ronins. And then even better, Kumoko uses earth magic. Even though she doesn't have an earth magic skill, meaning she had to create the magic from scratch, which again, is not only something a monster can't do, but not something anyone can possibly do. So at this point, they all realize, yeah, they're gonna die. And the summoner does everything in his power to hold back Kumoko long enough for them to teleport away. And because he's level 4 summoner, he's able to summon 4 monsters at once, his 4 best monsters at once. And I seriously misunderstood how summoning worked when I watched the anime. I assumed it was, like in a video game. You call it your summoned monster. When it dies, it basically goes to sleep and you can recharge it later on down the road. No, these are 4 real living, breathing monsters the summoner has had with him for years and years. He even says, I'm sorry when he sends out into battle because he knows they're about to die. And then when they do die, he says, my summoned beast, who have overcome so many trials with me, have all been slaughtered. So yeah, these are like his pets. These are like his friends, basically, which he is just sending to their death time and time again. And even after they're wiped out, he keeps summoning monster after monster after monster while just chugging down MP potions until he runs out of beasts. He's the Renxandt Empire's best summoner, and he is now out of beasts. Oh, that's terrifying. That is so terrifying. But thankfully, they both managed to survive, I think. I mean, the summoner definitely took some really serious blows, but the light novel says HP started going back up again, so I guess he might have survived. I'm a little bit unsure about that. But anyway, then we flash over to Kumoko's point of view, who has returned home after killing a whole bunch of bees to find that people broke into her home, burned it to the ground, and are now pointing swords at her. So yeah, she has a right to be very, very angry about this, and even describes it as being legitimate self-defense. Oh, I love that. And then she used her rule's authority to block their appraisal, which I think is something that was taught to her when Taboo reached level 10, because she even says she didn't want to do this because it uses up her divinity field. So, interesting, very, very interesting. But anyway, then she accidentally kills a bunch of soldiers. She didn't mean to, she really didn't mean to, but she just gave them a single glance with a cursed evil eye, and they immediately fell to the ground dead, which, yeah, as it turns out, humans much weaker than monsters. And then she kind of has a moral quandary. She's wondering, back in Japan, did I obey the laws because I didn't want to get in trouble or because of my consciousness? And then she realizes that humans give just so very, very much experience when you kill them, and that's all the justification she really needs. Seriously, each human she killed, even though they were so weak, gave her as much EXP as a greater terror attack, and even though she only killed 8 people, she went up 2 levels, so yeah, she decides to kill all of them. Or at least most of them. She lets 4 escape by foot so she can track them and find her own way out of the labyrinth. Huzzah! And one of the most interesting parts of this battle is that she was able to use train magic simply because she saw Earth Dragon Araba use it and was able to mimic what he did without the system assisting her. So yeah, that's actually kind of terrifying. And after using the magic over and over again, she's able to get Earth magic up to level 1. Huzzah! And then the time has come for the big battle. Earth Dragon Araba versus the Nameless Spider. In the blue corner, we have a level 26 Edisane with all of her stats being at least 2,000. Her speed is 7,000. All her magic stats are at least 10,000. She has attained Earth Resistance level 8 by hitting herself with Earth Magic again and again and again. And she has a mysterious trump card known only as Sloth. And in the red corner, we have the level 32 Earth Dragon Araba, with every one of his stats being at least 4,000. He has incredibly high defense, incredibly high speed, Dark Resistance level 4, and Divine Scales, which is an evolved form of Imperial Scales, basically meaning that magic is completely ineffective against him. And quite importantly, he has 40,000 skill points! And thus the battle begins, with each side throwing out an attack they know the other will dodge, just to test one another. And then Kumoko starts using dimensional maneuvering to get off the ground so that Earth Dragon Araba can't use his train magic on her, which, is a very, very good strategy. Unfortunately, she does not have any of her parallel minds right now because they're off busy fighting Mother, so she isn't able to cast as many spells at once as she could if she had 3 extra brains backing her up. Though the battle is fairly close until she realizes Earth Dragon Araba can use a breath attack without actually charging it up at all. And while this is much weaker and has much less range than his earth attacks, it can be done with almost no warning and is really, really hard to dodge. And the fight is just super tight after that, with Kumoko just a hair's breadth away from death. And thanks to her just pushing herself time and time again in this fight, her thought acceleration reaches level 10 and becomes hyper acceleration 1, and her foresight evolves into future sight 1. So basically, she can actually see the attacks coming before they come and is able to react in time. And this greatly boosts her evasion and allows her to start doing some real damage. And then she pulls out her big guns, the heretic magic spell Phantom Pain, which causes damage directly to the brain, directly to mind, so Earth Dragon Araba's pain mitigation can't actually do anything about it. And Kumoko says it's probably the first time in a long time he's ever actually experienced pain, and while he has the mental strength to overcome it, it distracts him long enough for Kumoko to wrap him in thread and suspend him midair. And it seems like the battle's won at that point, but then things go bad. Things go very, very bad, because Earth Dragon Araba has a whole bunch of skill points, which he has never used. And yeah, apparently up to this point, Kumoko has never come across a monster who has used any of their skill points. She's never seen a skill among any of the monsters she's met that they shouldn't have gotten naturally over their lifespan. So interesting. Very, very interesting that Earth Dragon Araba is able to use them. And what's more, he uses basically every skill point he's gotten over his very, very long life just for the sake of killing Kumoko here and now, because he views her as that much of a threat. And the skills are terrifying. First off, Inferno Magic level 1, which is the highest form of fire magic. Then he gets Flame Resistance level 1, which is the improved version of Fire Resistance, so his own attacks don't hurt him quite so badly. Black Resistance level 1 is the improved version of Dark Resistance, and means that Kumoko's Black Bullet attack won't actually do all that much damage anymore. And finally, Space Perception allows him to deal with Kumoko's teleportation, so very, very bad. Oh, and it gets worse. It actually gets worse, because during the fight, he unlocked the skills Concentration level 1, Prediction level 1, Parallel Thinking level 1, Arithmetic Processing level 1, and Heresy's Resistance level 1. So, yeah, that's bad. That's so, so bad. And he is serious. He is just so, so serious in this fight, as the first thing he does after getting these skills is perform the Inferno Magic level 1 spell, Scorched Earth, which is designed to cover the ground in flames, but because he's in midair, he becomes the ground for the spell. He sets himself on fire to break free of her webbing just so he can kill her. And even though he has flame resistance, this doesn't actually stop him from hurting himself. He's literally burning himself to death just to kill her. I love it, I love it. And Kumoko's response is just so perfectly Kumoko, saying only the protagonist is allowed to have such a cool moment of development like that. Oh, Kumoko, you're amazing. And this isn't all that bad of a situation for her, because she does have medicine synthesis now, so she can actually put out the flames without poisoning herself. Her fire resistance reached level 10 while she was in the middle stratum, and has now evolved into flame resistance level 2. Her flame resistance is actually better than Araba's, but she is still, in a burning cage of death with a seriously ticked off dragon, so that's bad. That's bad, though the fight isn't quite as back and forth as the anime is at this point, as her HP just very, very quickly hits 0, and then she has to rely on perseverance to keep her alive. Thankfully, though, Araba then starts to slow down thanks to her skill Sloth, which drastically multiplies the amount of decrease in surrounding systems' numerical values, excluding the users. Basically, it makes his SP drop very, very quickly, and there's no way to recharge SP outside of eating, so yeah, she basically won because Araba fought as hard as he did, because he was burning through his SP so quickly, and not even realizing how low it was getting. And then she's prepared to deliver a big final blow, but Araba stops resisting. He becomes overwhelmingly calm, and this just really, really ticks her off, because, she's struggled. She's worked so hard every second of her life to keep fighting, even to her final breath, but Araba is just, fine. He's fine accepting his death, and so she decides to finish him off with annihilating evil eye, and then walks away with a bad taste in her mouth. But then several days later, she has finally managed to escape the labyrinth, thanks to following those 4 knights she tracked. Huzzah! And then we flash over the Demon Lord Ariel, who asks her assistant Balto if he's ever encountered an Earth Dragon. And he says no, but then follows it up by wondering, well, why are you asking that? And he just really starts kicking himself for that, because he says that just talking to Demon Lord can shorten his lifespan. So I guess he's afraid that if he talks to her too much, if he says the wrong thing, she'll kill him, which, she might. But she responds by saying she encountered an Earth Dragon and described him as being proud and decent and must be descendants of samurai, which, just really, really fueled the theory that Ariel was Kumoko, because only an Earthling would know about samurai, and at the very least, we know that Kumoko fought one Earth Dragon. I mean, technically, Ariel knowing about samurai is because of Kumoko, but still, they're 2 separate people. But anyway, then we have the Shun storyline, and apparently Shun's teacher informed his father, the king, that Shun had been named the new hero, and Shun was immediately summoned home, where the father actually has to check this. The father praises him to make sure that Shun actually is the hero, which I found to be such a weird moment. Like, really, you think your son Shun would lie about his big brother, the person he loves most in the world, dying? What's wrong with you, king? But on the other hand, it just doesn't make sense to me. This was the king's last hope, his last breath, his last prayer, that maybe it wasn't true. Maybe Shun was wrong. Maybe he was being tricked somehow, and that his son was still alive. But nope, Julius is definitely dead, and as a result, the king starts to weep. And the third prince, Leston, the son of the king's second concubine, holds Shun as he cries as well. And Julius described Leston as being a good person who Shun should always go to if he was ever in trouble, if he ever needed anything. Also, apparently, Leston knows that Shun is a reincarnator. Shun didn't tell him, but in the next chapter, Leston contacts Miss Oka and talks about her being a teacher in her past life, and that they need to bring Shun to the elf village to protect him. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I have so many questions about Leston. But anyway, then we also have the first prince, Silas, who, like Sue, is a child of the true queen, and he is a very sour person. He says, we need to get to work, we need to get stuff done. And according to Julia, Silas, just really cares about the kingdom and wants to do his best for the sake of the people. Maybe not so much anymore, but that's at least who he was when he was younger. Oh yeah, Shun also mentions that he has an older sister who married into another kingdom. I have no idea how relevant she is. And oh god, I just do love this next line from the king. He says, before we are individuals, we are royalty, and as such, must fulfill our duties to the people. Only once that is done, may we grieve. Oh god, that was a great line. That was a great freaking line, king. I wish you weren't dead. I really wish you weren't dead. Anyway, though, the king is just really, really unhappy that Shun is the hero because he knows that Shun will basically be sent to the battlefield, sent to die by the church, the other nations, and all that. And they don't actually know what the qualifications are to become the hero. People are saying, oh, it's the one who's most worthy, but what does worthy actually mean? It's not related to social status. It's very rarely a member of royalty, so curious, very, very curious. And then we get a report from Battlefield, which can basically be summed up as chaos. There is complete and absolute chaos everywhere. A giant monster was summoned, the largest spell anyone's ever seen was cast. All they know is that the demons withdrew. That's all they can say for absolute certainty, and they're just waiting for more results. And it takes quite a while. An entire month passes where Shun just training, preparing to, take the mantle of hero. He uses his Fartalk skill to keep in contact with Sue and Katya and everyone else back at the academy. Of the 8 human fortresses, all of them were attacked, and at least half of them fell. Fort Kusarian, the biggest and most important fort, was attacked by a Queen Terratact who was summoned, though apparently the demons couldn't really control it all that well as it attacked the demons too, so that's curious. Fort Okun was actually my favorite here, as the demons found a way to drop a monkey into it, the same monkey that Kumoko fought at the end of Volume 1, the monkey where if you kill one of them, the entire species will come rushing at you to come and murder you. So yeah, the entire fort was utterly and completely wiped out by the monkeys, though now it's basically been occupied by them, so the demons can't really use it either. Interesting. The other 2 forts were brought down by military conflicts. 3 of them barely survived, and finally Fort Dazuro, which is being guarded by Master Ronan, managed to survive with almost no casualties at all, and they've managed to kill the enemy commander, so huzzah! Though I'm wondering if this actually was done on purpose by the demons, because there's a chapter later on that seems to imply that Master Ronan is working with the demons at least a little bit. Very, very confused about that. And Shun is just really, really depressed right now. He feels like he's a coward. He can't go to the battlefield like Julius did. And he's all alone. Sue and Katya have gotten more and more distant. And for some reason, Faye has turned into a giant egg after he became a hero. So that's concerning. That's very, very concerning. And then Shun gets the full story of his brother's death. Basically, Julius managed to kill the demon general by himself. And then asked the demons to surrender because, they had no chance of winning against him. Until a girl dressed in white took a leisurely stroll onto the battlefield and apparently performed a raw attack, killing Julius and their entire party. Oh no! Shun realizes, I can't be a hero like Julius. I can't be as worthy as he was to be a hero, because I'm not trying to save the world. I'm not that good of a person. I just want to carry out Julius's wish, just carry out his desire. And so he decides to become a hero to fulfill Julius's wish, to bring peace to the world. And then we get a very interesting chapter from Master Ronan's perspective, as he describes all his students as being fools because he himself was a fool before he encountered the master whose power approached godhood and realized his own smallness. So therefore, all of his students who don't realize this are fools themselves. Interesting? I'm fairly certain the master is referring to Kumoko, the Nightmare of the Labyrinth he encountered 16 years ago. So very, very curious about that. But his next line is just really interesting, as he's saying that once my students get a bit of power, they think they can save the world and don't realize they can only save what is visible to them. And I think this is very relevant to Shun right now because once he became, the hero, once he became focused on saving the world, he kind of stopped focusing on his friends so much, and he didn't realize something very, very wrong was going on with him. Katya stopped talking in Japanese to him. Sue felt more and more distant. Something was strange. Something was very, very strange. And this ultimately resulted in his little sister murdering his father and framing him for the crime, because apparently the king was going to name Shun as heir to the throne to keep him from being sent into battle, and Silas was just utterly terrified of losing the throne for such reason, so he decided to work with Hugo, who has the lust skill, which causes the status effects hypnosis, brainwashed, and charmed. So bad. Very, very bad. But thanks to Miss Oka, Leston, and Hyris are able to escape, and then Shun reunites with his maids, Anna and Clevia. And unfortunately for him, Anna is also being brainwashed. So Shun has to knock her out, and he can't really undo the brainwashing. It actually takes him close to a month to fully undo the brainwashing using status conditioning canceling magic. A very, very slow process. And then we get another Katya chapter, Man's Final Stubbornness. And this is a rather interesting chapter. It's not exactly from Katya's point of view, but rather from the point of view of the guy she used to be. Basically, as a result of her being reborn as a girl, her male mind didn't really mix in with the body, and as a result, she got kind of like a split personality disorder. On one hand, she's the gaming dude from Japan, and on the other, she's the well-mannered daughter of a duke. So because of this, when Hugo actually brainwashed her, her female self was completely captivated by, completely bought into the delusion that Hugo was just someone she should admire from the bottom of her heart, but her male self was able to fight back just a tiny, tiny little bit, managed to retain his own consciousness, his own belief, and realize that, he was basically being controlled. And it's not like in the anime where he's able to, fight back enough to say, Shun, kill me now, and then stab himself. All he's really able to do is interrupt the spell that his female self is casting, so that it basically explodes and kills him. Kills her, kills both of them. And then Shun saves her, yay! And carries her away bridal style, and I really just need to read this page. It's good, it's so good. All at once, my heart starts pounding so fast that it feels like it might explode. Despite this dire situation, my face flushes. It's no use. I can't fight anymore. What was left of my male spirit probably died just now. As this moment, Kanata Oshima has truly become Katya. I love it. I freaking love it. And there are some rather interesting side effects to her, being brainwashed for several weeks, dying, and then being brought back to life. I mean, for one thing, she's bedridden for quite a while, and then still deal with frequent headaches afterwards. And for another, she gains the skill Divinity Expansion, which, as best I can tell, expands the soul. It's also a skill Kumoko got when she leveled up Detection and was able to grasp some grand cosmic truth. So, interesting, very interesting. She also gains the skill Heresy Resistance for, fighting the brainwashing, and Parallel Minds. I mean, that's a skill you should only get when parallel processing reaches level 10, but she got it because she had proficiency in having parallel minds and having a split personality. And that resulted in her getting the skill. I freaking love it. I freaking love it. Also, it's very interesting that Shun says he has the same skill, but it drove him crazy living on full time. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, Kumoko has no problem with multiple personalities at the same time, but for Shun, yeah, he can't handle it. He just could not freaking handle it. Also, she becomes much more forward, getting really close to Shun, flirting with him a little bit, trying to tease him a bit, just really trying to show her feelings and emotions for him. But anyway, before all that happens, first thing to actually escape from Sophia and these two ninjas who are surrounding them. Which, is a problem, Ahsoka is fighting Sophia, but yeah, Sophia can block all magic, and Ahsoka is an elf, so she specializes in magic, and yeah, she gets beat. She gets beaten very, very badly. In fact, she ends up in a 15-day coma after this fight. Yeah, apparently coma is a status effect, and Sophia has some sort of skill where she can actually put people into comas. Weird. Very, very weird. But anyway, then as all hope seems lost, Faye wakes up, saying basically, I just woke up and have no idea what's going on, but looks like you guys need some help. I love it, I love it. And, Shun refuses to leave because Leston's still behind, Clevia's still left behind. There's still people, they want to protect who are left behind, so Faye has to pick him up and literally carry him away while the others are left behind basically to die. Oh no! Really, again, just showing how Shun just is so bad at making those judgment calls. And then we get a very interesting side chapter called The Ruler and the Ninja. As best I can tell, the ruler is referring to Sophie, and the ninja is referring to their classmate who's a ninja. But anyway, as best I can tell, the ninja is saying that Sophia went against the master's wishes, and we're supposed to let them escape. It's really showing the ninja is incredibly loyal to the master, and doesn't want to disrupt the master's plan. Though he also claims that Sophia is way, way stronger than him, so curious, very curious. Also, apparently Faye has evolved to a light worm now because she is a familiar of the hero, and stuff like this has happened in the past with other heroes and their familiars. And even though she's now a light worm, she still keeps the massive defense she had as an earthworm and just gained incredible maneuverability. She also gained the skill Light Magic level 1, Flight level 1, and Light Worm level 9, which I definitely think is interesting, because once Light Worm reaches level 10, it'll probably evolve into Light Dragon 1, at which point will Faye be able to evolve into a Light Dragon? I'm very curious about that. And all her stats are around 3,500, so yeah, she's strong. She's really strong. Meanwhile, Shun just feels so utterly helpless because he realizes that he has absolutely no political connections he can rely on or anyone he can turn to in this moment. And as Katya explains, yeah, that was done on purpose. You were kept out of politics on purpose because the queen wanted to prevent you from gaining too much power through your connection with Julius. That's why even though he was a prince, he took no classes on politics and just understood absolutely nothing about this world, which is just really hilarious and really fits his trope as the clueless protagonist. Oh, also, apparently Sue was ordered by the queen to spy on Shun, though Katya assures him that Sue did actually really love him, but yeah, that's weird. That's really weird. I have so many questions about this freaking queen. But anyway, then Hiron shows up and announces that Leston and Katya's parents are about to be executed, and this is where we get a really strong divergence from the anime, as Shun leads a full rescue mission to attack the capital and save them. And Shun is fairly confident. He's like, you know what, we're a pretty strong group. We'll have no problems. We can do this. Until someone starts attacking them with magic from half a mile away, even though they're a moving target at night. So yeah, that's bad. That's very bad. And Hiron's is like, dude, we need to retreat. We are going to die. And Shun's response is, let's force our way through, which, again, this dude is just so bad at knowing when to call it quits. And so instead, he, Faye, and Hiron's all set up magical barriers to protect them from the attacks, but the attack pierces all 3 barriers, and still they keep going until Shun gets close enough to jump off of Faye and attack the mage with his sword. Unfortunately, the mage then teleports away, and Shun then finds out that it was actually Master Ronin's, and if he wanted to, he could have easily beaten all of them, but he let them go. And then we get another interesting chapter, the elderly mage and the ruler, with the ruler apparently being Sophia, and apparently this whole attacking Shun as he was approaching the capital wasn't part of the plan, but Master Ronin wanted to test Shun, and said that because he's young, he can still surpass him. And yeah, so Master Ronin is working with Sophia, so I guess that means Master Ronin is working with demons? Though it's clearly neither side is really, all that into the other, because Master Ronin doesn't actually know who Sophia's master is, so he might think she's just, an assassin, a mercenary, someone that Hugo hired, but it's very curious about that. It's also an interesting moment where he wonders if Sophia's master can compare to his own master, which I'm fairly certain is Kumoko, and I think Sophia's master is also Kumoko, so I think their masters are the same person. Weird, very weird. So many questions about Master Ronin's. But anyway, then they finally get to the execution chamber where Shun's brother Leston is, Shun's maid Clevia is, and Katya's parents are, and they all have swords up to their necks. And meanwhile, the knights and Silas all have clouded eyes, devoid of any light or will, but despite that, they still follow the orders and decapitate all 4 of them. Thankfully, that is not a problem for Shun at all, as he now has the skill Mercy, which allows him to revive the dead. Oh, I love it. I freaking love it. Yeah, Shun can actually revive the dead. That's how he saved Katya before. That was how he saves Anna in the fight later on. He can freaking revive the dead. Though it does come with some cost. For one thing, it requires a frankly ridiculous amount of MP. The body must be in relatively good shape, and too much time must not have passed since the person died. Oh, also, every time you use it, it raises his taboo scale, which, is very bad. Which is, very bad since it's now at level 9, and even having it at level 1 is enough for him to be executed. So bad, very bad. In fact, when he first bought the Mercy skill and got Taboo level 1, he unlocked the skill Concealment to hide it, so useful, very useful. Though he's definitely worried about what's going to happen when he reaches level 10, because even Yuri doesn't know what happens when the skill reaches level 10, describing it as too great a sin to even know. So yeah, that could be a problem. That could definitely be a problem for him down the road. But anyway, then leave Silas behind, and he is just broken. He is so utterly broken. Apparently, Hugo brainwashed him so much that his mind literally broke. Yeah, that's sad. That's very sad. It's said later on that he's bedridden and may never recover, and the queen basically took over the entire kingdom at this point. It also said that, there was a time when Silas wanted to truly protect the kingdom, but his mother drove him to obsession to be king because the queen was afraid that one of the king's other children would take the throne instead of her own son. So, yeah, crazy mother right there, crazy mother. And then we get one of the weirdest chapters in this volume, literally labeled question mark, as two unknown speakers are talking about Shun, and apparently they wanted him to resurrect the dead, I think to increase his taboo skill, and one of them even said they should have let him resurrect the king as well, so no idea. Is that Kumoko? Is that Ariel? Is that Sophia? Or is this some third party? I literally have no idea. But anyway, then a few days later, Misoka wakes up, yay! And Anna's no longer brainwashed, yay! But she is very, very depressed. Not yay. Yeah, apparently she's feeling a whole bunch of guilt over betraying Shun, even though she was brainwashed. Oh, poor girl, poor girl. Anyway, word from the rest of the kingdom, apparently Sue is set to marry Hugo so that he can rule over both countries, and Katya's parents are going to try and work with the non-brainwashed nobles to slowly regain their status. But the bigger concern right now is the fact that Hugo's going to be so focused on conquering humanity that he's going to give the demons a chance to attack them, so they need to go with the elf village to stop Hugo. And Katya has to spend an entire day convincing her parents to let her go to the village because, they really, really don't want to put her in harm's way. And then Anna has to go through a similar experience because, Anna is still weak, she's still getting over the brainwashing, and she's feeling a whole bunch of guilt, so they don't really want to bring her. Plus, the elves are super racist. Super duper racist. Especially against half-elves, so yeah, she'll have a very, very unpleasant time if she actually goes to the village. But Shun wants to keep an eye on her, so they bring her along. Yay! And then we end with a very disturbing line from Miss Oka exclaiming, "This world was created as part of a game among gods." Which, feels like a really, really crazy way to end the volume, but it gets crazier. It actually gets crazier, as the next chapter is labeled The Ruler and the Younger Sister. And I have absolutely no idea who either person in this title is referring to. I mean, every other chapter, as best I can tell, the ruler referred to Sophia, but the dialogue here feels much more sadistic than even Sophia came across. And younger sister, I mean, the only one I can really refer to is Sue, but if this actually is Sue, that just makes things so twisted. As the ruler explains that the younger sister was pretending to be brainwashed and betrayed her brother. So was Sue not really brainwashed when she murdered her father? I am so confused. Oh, and to add an extra little wrinkle to this, the ruler refers to the younger sister as little sister. So is this not Sophia? Is this Leston? He's secretly evil? Is this Silas and he's planning to be brain dead? Or is this, they mentioned an older sister is out there somewhere. So could that be, who's secretly doing this? Who's secretly in charge of all this? I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. And it is so weird. So weird. But anyway, then the younger sister refers to the ruler as God's hunting dog. And the ruler responds that the younger sister has now become an enemy of humanity who is obeying her master. So yeah, I'm so flabbergasted by this chapter. I literally have no idea to make of it. My best guess is that this is Sophia and Sue talking, and Sue was pretending to be brainwashed because the queen is somehow involved with the demons, involved with Sophia, and has some sort of bigger plan for the world as whole. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm definitely thinking the queen is going to end up being a major villain down the road, but I can't really say. But let me know else down below. What do you think of what was changed from the anime? What do you think their attempt to attack the capital at night while remaining as stealthy as possible? Yeah, it really didn't go all that stealthy, but thankfully there were literally no guards to protect them, besides those 4 knights who executed the prisoners, but even they were basically brain dead at that point. But be sure to let me know what you think of all this down below, and be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next video, and until then, peace!